1. Working at a water park exposes you to a lot of crazies. A lot of crazies. I work at Starbucks now, and I've still got more crazies at the water park. Though plenty of crazies at Starbucks too. On this particular day, I was guarding our wave pool. Our wave pool is one of the biggest in the state and has a mini attached side pool that's about 3 feet deep, and has a little playground so the kids can still experience the waves. The wave pool itself goes to 7 feet, and everyone under 48 inches is required to wear a life jacket. I was specifically guarding the kiddie area, and was the only one guarding the kiddie area. Important. There are 3 guards on the beach and entrance to the wave pool. 3 guards on each side of the wave pool, and 2 guards solely watching the deep end. One of the number 1 rules of being a lifeguard is that you never ever leave your area, and never ever take your eyes off of your zone. I just rotated to my spot by the kiddie pool when the entitled dad approaches me in his wheelchair and gets my attention. He politely asks if I can retrieve his son from the pool and describes him to me. I'm more than happy to do so for him. I'm standing by ED, searching for his child, and he's getting more and more frustrated because I cannot for the life of me find his kid. I'm actually mildly starting to freak out because I don't see the kid he's describing anywhere. The kiddie area isn't big, but there's like 50 kids crawling over the equipment and trying to sneak under the ropes into the big pool, so it's mild chaos. Finally, ED points and shouts, "Oh my god, he's right fucking there!" So I follow his hand, and this little twerp is like 100 yards into the big wave pool, floating happily along in his little Ninja Turtles life jacket. I relax because, oh my god, a child didn't get caught under equipment and drown somehow. I apologize to the ED and say, unfortunately, I can't swim out and tell him it's time to go home, because I can't leave my area. But if you'd like to tell one of the guards on the beach, I'm sure they'd be happy. No, I don't have time for that. Just go get him. I really can't leave the area, sir. I need to watch the children and keep my eyes on this zone. I move away from him to patrol my area and check the equipment, check the water, etc. While this man is shouting at me from the deck, "This is ridiculous. Just get my kid, you piece of shit, you know that?" And more cursing and about poops and female dogs and stuff. I round the corner of the playground, where he can't see me, and whistle for a supervisor because this is above my pay grade at this point. By now the other lifeguards and parents and children have noticed and are watching with concern, and my dumbass smiles and giggles when I get uncomfortable, so I'm hiding a smile when I walk back around, still ignoring ED, who's now shouting that I'm not paying attention. Correct, sir, you're mortifying yourself. I'm not paying attention to you, especially as I already solved your problem, and you're hurling obscenities at me. He continues to curse, saying he's going to report me to the personnel department and get me fired. I spot my supervisor, run over and move toward him. As I pass ED, he gets frustrated that I'm not paying attention to him, and uses a beach-like incline to run his wheelchair over my right foot. I yelp and jump back. One of my lifeguards hits the emergency stop button and the waves calm, and my supervisor goes from jogging to sprinting. The ED is insisting that we listen to him when he's talking to us. Then he tells his other kid to go and get his brother. Long story short, he had another kid that swam out to get the first one anyway. I got pulled off rotation and sent to the EMT and reassured that I was fine and my job was safe. And my supervisor kicked ED out of the park, and now he's banned forever. Sorry, little Ninja Turtles life jacket dude. I'm sure you were just doing your thing. 2. The backstory was that me and my extended family decided to take a trip to the beach. One night of our week's stay, we decided to go to a restaurant. Now, the thing about this restaurant is that the staff will be mean and obnoxious to the diners and would insult them. We arrived pretty late, so there were not as many people as there would be in a restaurant. We got a seat 2 tables down from a family of 4. I instantly noticed how odd the mother looked. I don't want to be rude, but I'd rather be honest, she was really ugly. She was quite slender and tall, her face was obviously unwashed. Her nose was what caught my attention. It was the longest nose I have ever seen. I'm talking like almost 3 inches off her face. Her hair was a mess and she wore a very tight dress. Thinking back, I didn't even think they sold dresses that small, but she managed to get one. The entire side of her body was exposed and the neck part came just over her breast. Imagine a swimming suit, but your stomach and back had fabric over it. So we arrived at about the same time as they did, and we all took a seat. The waiters acted as advertised and were rude to us. The waiter then walked over to the family and took their order. The family ordered their drinks, and one of the children ordered a water. Wow, going for something exciting, are we?
What did you just say to my kid?
Oh, I was just complimenting her on her wonderful choice of a drink.
Do not talk to my daughter like that. I will make you regret serving us, you bastard.
Oh, what a scary threat. I thought that you would put a curse on me, you witch. The woman was taken aback by this as the waiter walked away to get their drinks. Me and my family noticed this, and we were talking about how she was acting. Most of my family are not the confrontational type, but my cousin decided to say to my mother, in a voice the EM could hear, I mean, I knew there were crazies in Florida, but this is ridiculous. The EM looked over like she had been shot, and I saw her start to get up and walk over. The man, I'm assuming was her husband, stopped her and told her it was fine. She sat back, but I saw her glare at us every once in a while. The waiter eventually came back and gave us our drinks and took our orders. The EM ordered perfectly fine, and I assume she realized that this is the restaurant's thing. It's a gimmick they do. The waiter wandered with another insult, and left. The staff came with our food and we ate. The other family finished before, and I saw the woman tell the man something and he left with the kids. The waiter came back and gave her the check. She looked at him with a grin.
Why should I pay for this food? You insulted us, and I should not have to pay for such shitty service.
What are you talking about, lady?
You are the absolute worst person that has ever served me. I could get you fired if I told your supervisor about how you acted.
You do realize that is what we are supposed to do, right?
No, the waiter is supposed to treat the customer like a queen. I will not pay this bill, and I will give you 0 stars if you do not give me this food for free.
The waiter walked away and came back with his manager. How dare you talk to my waiter like that?
This waiter spat in my food and treated me terribly. I shouldn't have to pay for food by someone who can't even get a real job. Also, I'm a mother. My children shouldn't have to worry about me paying some stupid bill for a little food. I've known him for 8 years and I know he wouldn't do that. You need to pay or I'm calling the police, and frankly, I don't give a fuck if you're a mother. You wouldn't. I know people who could have you arrested.
Call them then. The EM stood up and slapped the waiter. How fucking dare you?
What?
The manager grabbed her by the shoulder and said, Get out of my restaurant, you goblin whore. She pushed her outside, and I assume the police were called. We paid our check and left. I still wonder what happened with her. Thanks for listening. 3. It was a warm July morning, and we had waited about 45 minutes before the scheduled changing of the guards at Buckingham Palace. We were towards the front of one of the gates, but there were a lot of tourists packed together at this point, since the guards were about to change any minute. My family was happily chatting among ourselves when all of a sudden, Entitled Mother, Entitled Kid 1, and Entitled Kid 2 started shoving and screaming to get to the front. They ended up right beside us, with EK1 and EK2 behind my mother. The kids could not stand still, they kept shoving and pushing into my mom, while the EM was talking on the phone. The kids were also eating snacks and spilling some on my mom since they were moving so much. After about 5 minutes of them being there, my mom was fully irked and turned towards them. Hello, could you two please stop moving so much? There are so many people here and it's hot, but you guys keep bumping into me. This elicits a blank stare while they stammer an incoherent response. The mother finally notices.
What's wrong?
Your kids are moving around and bothering us. Could you get them to stop?
Oh, EK1 and EK2, they're fine. We've been waiting here for a while, and kids get antsy.
No, they're not fine. Please just try to get them to stand still, okay?
Sure, whatever.
She goes back to talking on the phone without saying anything to her kids, while EK1 and EK2 continue to squirm and begin whining.
Mom, it's hot. When's it going to start? Mom, I'm hungry. When's Dad gonna get here?
She waves them off and continues to talk on the phone. They then start to shove some more and fight, which causes us to bump into the people around us. Everyone's shooting dirty looks at these kids, and I hear other families complaining about them. At this point, my mom has a faraway, angry look in her eyes, like she's trying to calm down, but her patience has almost been pushed to its limit. It all comes to a head when the two kids shove each other too hard and push my mom forward, hard. Thankfully, my dad and the packed crowd prevented her from falling on the ground, but she would have otherwise and was pissed. Stop moving. I've asked you nicely before, and you haven't done that. Just stop moving. They now look petrified and stare blankly. Do you understand? You can wait and stand like everyone else here. Their mother sees that my mom is talking to them again and gets off the phone.
Excuse me, is there a problem here?
Yes, they're, gestures to the kids, the problem. I've asked you to control your children, but they just shoved me. Get them to stay still.
Excuse you, we've been waiting here. And you know kids get bored. My kids are fine.
No, my family and everyone else here has been waiting here for at least 40 minutes. While you all shoved past to get here just minutes ago. They've been pushing each other and the crowd, littering food, and being rude to everyone who's actually been waiting. So they need to learn to stay still.
Well, my kids are well behaved, and we've been waiting like everyone else.
Yeah, we've been good and we're not rude. Leave us alone.
No, how about you two leave us alone and just stop bothering us and don't move around? She turns around and in the process brushes against EK1 and EK2. They're now shocked that my mom talked back and they start crying and whining.
Mom, she pushed us.
Excuse you, could you not talk to my kids? You're scaring them, and you pushed us.
Well, they're scaring me. They've pushed me several times already. You know, if they weren't here, everyone would be having a great time. Well, whatever. You need to figure out how to discipline your kids on your own. My mom then turned around. EM was speechless and quickly took her kids by their hands, running towards the back. Another family nearby has told us that EM and her kids were something else and thanked my mom for speaking out. Thankfully, we got to watch the guards and had a nice vacation after. 4. My gym has been pretty good about being safe and socially distanced, so I've started going back a couple times a week. Pre-pandemic, I coached youth sports. To be clear, not at this gym, elsewhere, outdoors on a field, not even in a remotely gym-like setting. So I was in the gym, headphones on, and really in my zone after going on a rowing machine. I thought I'd seen a mother with a child pointing in my direction, but shut it out because there was no way they were pointing at me. Must be a coincidence. Those who've seen this machine know there are a ton of pinch points. You don't want to get your hands anywhere near it while it's moving, let alone while someone is slamming back and forth on it absent-mindedly. So you can imagine my absolute shock and panic when a little kid, no older than 6, was buzzing around behind me and saying my name. I thought I heard my name through my headphones, but I was sure I must be imagining that too. I was too focused on the set to really care, but nope. I open my eyes and there's who after a second I recognize from one of my teams. He's telling me about how they want to bounce a yoga ball around, and I'm like, that's awesome, that sounds like a fun thing for you and your mom to do. While I'm thinking in the back of my mind, sounds unsanitary, I wonder why your mom brought you here and where she went. Thank God I just didn't accidentally break all your fingers. So I'm looking for her, barely even remembering what she looks like, as I never knew this family all that well. Then I spot what must be her, because there's a woman with a distinct Karen haircut shuffling away, sheepishly glancing back every few seconds to be sure the kid is still with us, but then panically averting her gaze and trying to disappear into another room when we made eye contact. I've been so frustrated with losing my sports season and having personal trips to the gym become rare commodities that my usual courteousness went right out the window. I ran over and flagged her down, kid in tow, and rather than needlessly argue with her, just gave her the benefit of the doubt and said, "Oh, your son had gotten lost, here he is, thanks, bye," and then turned to go. But instead of just accepting the stunt didn't work and accepting my very generous offer of allowing her to save face, she tried to play dumb. "Oh, I know you. You're one of his coaches. Oh, that's too perfect because, they had to shut down the daycare program until all this social distancing hooey is sorted out." I saw where she was going with this, so decided it was time to just be direct. Yeah, this gym isn't affiliated with the team, at all. Not the childcare program, none of it. She tried to pull at my heartstrings with, "I guess I could just let him hang out by himself, but he likes you so much." Setting her manipulation tactics aside, I just went with, "Well, that's your call as a parent. But this really isn't a safe place to leave a kid unsupervised," hoping that would make it clear that if she'd just leave him to wander, I wasn't going to assume charge of him out of any sense of obligation. Instead, credit to Karen, she managed to turn it around on me with, "Oh great, so you'll watch him then? Thank you so much." "No, I won't do that. I'm here to work out." Or at least that's what I tried to say. But I got maybe 1/3 of the way through before Karen just walked away. So I don't have time for any of that. I took the kid to the front desk and reported him as a lost child. The staff are very professional, so they just smiled and took the kid by the hand and gave him a place to wait and didn't say anything beyond, "Oh, thanks so much for letting us know, we'll take care of it." But as I was leaving, I heard the clerk call into the back about Karen, so I stopped and made it look like I was leafing through pamphlets to overhear them. "Jenna, you're never gonna believe this. Remember that lady who was trying to leave her kid up here a minute ago? Huh? Yeah, that one bitching about the daycare closure 'cause kids can't get the virus. Exactly the same one. She just left her kid in the gym. I don't know where. Some girl brought him back up here because he was going around looking for his mom. Can you believe some people? Oh god, I don't want to find her, you find her. I dealt with her the first time." I couldn't believe it. How anyone would first of all feel entitled to free childcare from people either utilizing a service they paid for, gym membership, or doing a different job on someone else's dollar, gym staff, is beyond me. But more than that, who entrusts their kid to strangers? Why is her workout so much more important than my workout? Or those ladies' jobs? When I walked past the desk nearly 40 minutes later, she was still arguing with those poor girls. I stuck around to try and catch any more juicy tidbits. But shortly after that point, the actual gym owner appeared. I think she drove in especially to deal with Karen, and availed her of the "No children under 12 on the main floor" policy, which is now a posted sign. This is why we can't have nice things. 5. So for some context, me and my dad are windsurfers. It isn't a serious hobby, to where we are both professionals, but we aren't exactly beginners, so we don't need lessons and have our own kit to travel and windsurf whenever we can. On this particular day, we decided to travel 4 hours to our now usual windsurfing location at a sea harbor since it wasn't deep waters, so it was easy to sail on and stand when you fall. Great winds, and the tide was on our side, but most importantly, it was the only location kinda open due to lockdown restrictions, hence why we traveled for over 4 hours. A final piece of information is that I have autism. I am not great at social communication in hostile situations and can get really insecure, quiet, among other things, which will prove to be important in this story. So on the day of windsurfing, me and Dee had gotten up at 5:30 a.m. to pack our gear and head to the location on the south coast. We were both tired when we arrived and not really in the mood for BS, and just wanted to get on the water as soon as possible for that sweet adrenaline rush. So me and Dee were unpacking the car when this car pulled up behind us beeping. At first I thought our gear was in the way, so I proceeded to the back of the car, but no. There was nothing there, so proceeded to go to the car and ask, anything wrong? I was thinking that once more it was a gear issue or the lady was lost or something, but she rolls down her window, looks me dead in the eye and says, "You need to move. My son needs that spot to set up his windsurfing gear, and he deserves that spot." Admittedly, windsurfing gear can be heavy depending on your rig, but we had already started to unload and had the best spot since the setup area was in front, meaning it would take us less time, and me and Dee had 2 gears to rig, so we weren't moving. With that in mind, I look at the lady and go, "Sorry, we're already setting up, but you can stay parked behind. It isn't that far to move your kit." The lady gave me a death glare, but I shrugged it off and got back to helping unload the car and get changed into a dreaded wetsuit. I hate wetsuits. Now, there aren't changing rooms at this location, so me and Dee always have our swim stuff underneath our clothes and change at the location. So as I proceeded to strip down, Demon Lady strikes again. "Excuse me. Can you cover up and change somewhere else? My son will get offended, and it is inappropriate of a woman to change in the presence of public." Okay, so I'm annoyed. I'm a tomboy and honestly don't give a flying fuck of people around me. And it wasn't as if I was naked and flaunting my body around. I was covered and just trying to get a wetsuit on, so I look at the woman and calmly say, "Then why are you looking at me? Your son doesn't need to look. Just mind your own business and leave me alone." I kinda moved away before she could start on me again, and then once my dad set up my rig, we got it in the water and ready. As I went to grab my gloves and life jacket, EK started to come into the picture.
This stupid sail isn't working. I can't do it, Mom. Could you help me with this worthless piece of junk?"
I looked at the progress and his kit, and it was brand new. Like, people, it costs thousands for that kind of rig, and if he can't set it up, he shouldn't have bought it. Anyway, EM replied, "Okay, sweetie, how about we ask those 2 to do it for you?" Gesturing to me and my dad. In the end, my dad came over to help the struggling kid. I grabbed my kit and got to windsurfing to enjoy my day with my 4M sail. You would think I was finished, but no, once that EK got his gear set up and into the water, my day would be ruined. Now, as I said, this kid had a brand new kit and couldn't set up his own gear, which should have been a red flag, but I waved it off like an idiot. The EK couldn't windsurf. He had a very new, top-of-the-line 5M sail and board setup, and that is the worst decision for a beginner in 20-mile-per-hour winds without a harness. So this EK ate shit. He was flying and falling off his board and spent more time in the water than windsurfing, which wouldn't be an issue if he wasn't in my sailing path. Now, as stated, I am no pro. I can windsurf, but I'm still learning how to turn properly and avoid hitting people, so it became an annoyance when this little shit would conveniently be in my area, which caused me to have to drop sail and fall into the water to avoid hitting him. On other occasions, his sail would hit my board and would crash into mine, and I was drinking salt water. My D was nowhere to be seen, cause once he was rigged, he was gone windsurfing. The worst part was how EM was egging him on like, "Yes, sweetie, you're doing so well. Make sure to get in the way of that stupid lady." And even as I overheard her telling her own son to hit her and stop her having fun cause she stopped you. When I almost hit the EK, who was like 18 plus by the way, she would be screaming like a banshee telling me to stop hurting her boy. It was getting too annoying, and after a few hours I carried my rig out of the water for a break. Think this is over yet? Nah, still got the final act. So as I got all my rig out the water and walked to our car to grab my lunch, this EM came over to me and, not asked, but demanded, "Give my son your sail. He's struggling and needs your windsurf stuff to stay on board." Okay, just no. My gear may be a little older, but it's still worth hundreds, plus it's during a COVID-19 pandemic, so I was not handing over my gear in case. Plus this woman was rude and demanding, which made my anxiety rise, since she was becoming more hostile. I responded with, I'm sorry, but I can't." If he's struggling in there are classes down the road that he could sign up for to learn.
My son doesn't need classes. He is amazing, but you keep getting in his way and almost hurting him, so you're going to give him your sail so he can windsurf, whilst you sit out since you aren't using the stuff.
No, I'm not letting you. I walked away as she screamed at me, put my lunch in the car, grabbed my rig, and moved to a different spot in the end to windsurf until it was time to go home. When I got back, the EM and EK were gone, and I was left to tell my dad everything about what had happened, which made him angry and mortified. In the end, we got home, and I just passed out, 'cause ain't nobody got time for Karen. Thanks for listening. A little message for people interested in windsurfing. Get classes before going on the water. It is classed as an extreme sport for a reason. I and EK were lucky not to be injured. Don't make that kid's mistake. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to the Impractical Proudness of Parents. iPop number 44. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'm not sure what happened, but as many of my conversations often do, while I was chatting with folks in the stream chat as I was recording there, I somehow got onto the subject of cannibalism. And apparently my solution for Karens was essentially just to put them in the freezer and use them as meat. I'd imagine, all that hatred would make the meat quite tasty, or it could make it quite bitter. Maybe it'd make a good soup, though. But I really must stop talking about eating people. I barely like talking to people. I certainly wouldn't want to eat them. Especially not now, it's just not safe. I'll stick to pasta. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.